What's up guys, Karl Thomas here, and today's video is a follow-up to one that I did at the back end of 2020 on how much DJs get paid. Specifically today we're going to be talking about pay-to-play, playing for free, and also selling tickets to get DJ gig type events. I'm going to be giving you a little bit of an overview into how these types of gigs work and also giving you my opinion on if I think you should be doing them as a DJ. First and foremost, just to give you a little bit of an introduction, this type of setup of event for DJs seems to happen most commonly when you're working for a promoter rather than a venue directly. That being said, if there are promoters watching, I've worked for many across the years that I've been a DJ. Not all promoters work like this. I want to make that very, very clear. Not all promoters work in this way. However, it does happen a lot in the promoter community. That's where it seems to be most common. It also seems to happen by promoters that are running events in venues that are extremely highly sought after by DJs. I don't want to mention any of the venue names, but most DJs would bite an arm off to play in that venue, so therefore the promoter kind of exploits that a little bit. So let's talk about these three different models or three different scenarios in a bit more detail. First and foremost, playing for free. It's exactly what it says on the tin. You essentially get a set in a club. You might be on the lineup, but essentially you just don't get paid. You don't get any travel expenses. You just turn up, you play your records and you leave. You don't get paid anything at all. Maybe you get a couple of drinks thrown in as a bit of a sweetener, but you just won't get paid. The second scenario is selling tickets in order to get a slot. So what will happen is the promoter will give you a certain number of tickets to sell to your friends, to anybody that wants to buy them. Maybe it's because you've got a bit of an Instagram following or Facebook following or whatever it may be, but essentially you sell a certain number of tickets. Sometimes you will get a commission for selling those tickets and that acts as your fee. Other times you have to sell over a certain threshold to then earn some commission, and other times you won't get any commission at all, but it's almost like seen as if you sell these tickets, as a reward you get a DJ slot. So that's how that kind of situation works. And then the final model, which to me is the most absurd one, is pay to play, where essentially you hand over money and in return for that you get a slot at a festival, at an event or whatever it may be. So now that we've covered the three different approaches that a promoter might use to find DJs, should you actually be doing them? Now, in my opinion, all three of these types of events are versions of paying to play. Because if you think about it, even if you're playing for free, you are still paying out on petrol money to get to the venue, you're still paying for parking, maybe you're paying for a train ticket. So the outgoings to you are going to be more than you're getting in, which is effectively nothing. Plus, there's obviously the use of your time in order to play the gig. In terms of selling tickets for events, of course, the extra hours have to be spent in terms of marketing those tickets, selling the tickets through all of your platforms, as well as doing the event itself. So you have to ask yourself, is all of this extra time that I'm spending on this particular event worth it for the often limited amount of commission that you're going to get? From speaking to DJs that I know who have done this type of events, often the money that you get in from selling those tickets is nowhere near enough to cover the costs of marketing and then going to that event, obviously still paying for parking, still, getting a train fare or whatever it is, and actually DJing the event. And then obviously pay to play, you're actually handing over your own money, which is just absurd, but it does exist. So in my opinion, every one of these models is a version of paying to play, because you're giving up your time and you're not getting a lot of reward for it. So, should you be actually doing these types of gigs? And my answer to this is exactly the same every single time, and that is, if the benefits to you of doing this type of gig far outweigh the cost, then go for it, okay? But, and there is a but, But this should not be the norm, okay? You should not be doing these types of gigs on a regular basis. If you do it once, if you do it twice, because you have, I don't know, just graduated from the bedroom and you want a first stab at playing to a live crowd and you don't have a whole lot of experience and that experience is going to be really invaluable to you, then by all means, give it a shot. I think that's absolutely fine. A lot of DJs used to get their experience from being a warm-up DJ. However, I know that in commercial clubland in particular, warm-up club DJs are few and far between these days. So absolutely give it a shot as long as it does not become the norm for you. DJs should be getting paid a fair wage for DJing, and that should make up the majority of your gigs, in my opinion. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, but that is my humble opinion on the matter. And ultimately, as long as DJs continue to be willing to work for free or pay to play or sell tickets, the more this type of gig will continue to happen. Ultimately, promoters make money, they sell tickets, they take the door money, and part of that door money profit should be going, in my opinion, towards the DJ, because without a DJ there is no crowd, but ultimately further down the chain, obviously without selling the tickets there is no crowd. But the promoter should be paying each DJ a fair wage, in my opinion. And ultimately the promoter, the clue is in the name, they are there to promote. Their whole specialism is marketing, because they've built up a great club brand or they have a great event. By sort of palming off the ticket sales to you, or by telling you you're not going to get paid, they're either making money out of you and pocketing that door money, or they're just being lazy because their job is there to promote. Your job is to DJ. Plus as well, this is the only type of industry where it's almost seen as acceptable for this type of activity to happen, or certainly within the creative industries. For example, if you go into a supermarket, you wouldn't go behind the checkout for an hour for exposure. If you work behind the checkout for an hour, even if it's a trial shift, you would expect to be paid. If you went to an office, you wouldn't crunch some emails for an hour to build your brand or to get some social media followers. Again, you would expect to be paid. So why is it acceptable as DJs to be working for free? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And then the final point on the matter, if you disagree with what I'm saying, because it should be about the passion, it should be about the music, and I get that. I'm a very passionate person about music. I love DJing. I am extremely passionate. However, DJing is expensive. Okay, you buy music on a weekly, you are subscribed to record pools, I buy from Beatport, the equipment is expensive. So if if you've got that expenditure on the equipment, on the music, and then you've got to pay out to play, there comes a point where it just doesn't become a worthwhile living. So yes, I am passionate about it. However, there does become a point where it still has to be worthwhile for me financially to do it, to make it viable for me to continue doing it. Otherwise, it is just a black hole of money that you never see. And unfortunately, life is expensive, right? You know, you've got rent to pay, you've got bills to pay, we all do. So there we have it, guys. Those are my opinions on paying to play and playing for free. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely intrigued to know if you've ever sort of played for free, if it's got you a bit further up the ladder for that exposure that everyone talks about. I would actually really like to know. As I say, those are my opinions. They are my opinions. You don't have to share them. Maybe you think that playing for free is absolutely fine, but for me, it's not a long-term thing at all, and it shouldn't be seen as a long-term thing. If you like this type of thing, please do give me a thumbs up. It does the algorithm a world of good, especially for little channels like mine, and I will see you in the next video.